As I mentioned, this past few days a certain heaviness, oppression and condemnation was present. For a week and some few days, it lingered until one morning a certain brief change of will happened. I have had enough of it. I saw myself in a few seconds in my usual beach, and I was there, settled to throw some stones in the water. I will tell you in short about those stones. I saw myself in my mind throwing a lot of stones, an arm full of them. Some I threw with my own hand, others, as they were many, they were levitating before me and were teleported above the ocean, where they were released and sunk into the deep. Among them were some gems, which made me wonder because I have never seen them before. But I allowed it to be so, so the gems also sank in the water. Right then, in my physical world, I walk out of the scene in my mind, and a few minutes after, I notice a light feeling upon me. That gloomy, heavy, condemning feeling I have been having until a few minutes ago left? In minutes were the stones thrown away, and in minutes the change came in my physical self? I looked toward my Jesus on the monstrance and wondered in awe. This is real, huh? Mentioning the throwing stones in the water. I felt since then a cheerfulness coming back to me and being more myself afterwards, which lasted even the days ahead. This idea of throwing stones in the water was inspired based on a rhema which I have received some time ago, which said, "Think of nothing but Him." The best way to drive out useless thoughts is by simply letting them drop like a stone in the water. This salutary practice will make it easier, paraphrased. And it caused me to think, well, if useless thoughts are to be thrown like stones in the water, then negative feelings can be applied to this too, and this would be thrown out of my heart. This inspiration made me come up with a place with a lot of water. That place became one of my most frequently visited places in my sanctified imagination whenever I need to throw something away. Seeing its effect, I had to write it down. So here is the episode which illustrates the wounds of healing spoken in the previous message. The wounds is that you will see yourself being exposed, but in turn, it brings you to the shore of healing. So here it is. A chapter from the book Just Imagine, titled A Stone Throw. I recall standing near the shore of an ocean, seeing a kid throw stones in the water at different lengths and sizes that appear seemingly out of nowhere in the palm of his hand, sometimes appearing one after another, other times in between short intervals. As he threw them, some skipped on the surface, others sank deep in the water instantly, and the might of his strength also differed. The stones had a dark blue color in appearance, but some looked completely black as coal. Interesting, I thought, thinking of what my eyes were witnessing. Soon the Lord comes from behind, at my right side, and stands with me under the tree branch, as I marvel with a finger on my chin. Taking my hand onto his, we walk up to the boy. As the distance between us shortened moment by moment, I noticed his features: short black spiky hair, Caucasian smooth skin, and sky blue eyes. He wore a black t-shirt and pants. He was barefoot. The clothes allowed him easy movement, which was a big plus. I noticed each time he threw a stone, a spark would be seen inside his chest, and soon enough, another rock appeared in his hand. Jesus points at the boy's chest gently and softly tells me in a low voice, "Those are the stones in his heart." In his heart? I looked at him questioning. Yes, he replied calmly and pleased. Many stones that lodged in his heart caused by wounds of the past, words that hurt, regrets, injuries of the heart and soul. You can call them stones of bitterness, stones of darkness in a heart. I understood him then. That is why they came out of his chest. I then turned my attention toward the water and, knowing my Lord, I looked at him waiting for his reply. It's the waters of forgiveness. He smiled with his eyes toward me, and then to the boy ahead. By throwing them into the water, he is letting them go off from his heart. Forgiving, moving on, releasing the shame, the regrets, even about himself and his mistakes. Jesus turned his gaze gently to me. That is why they have different sizes and color palettes. Some are heavier than others, depending on the impact made on his tiny heart and soul. He gazes at the boy again. The might of his throw at times shows the zeal of how much he desires to let them go. Jesus settled his loving gaze on the boy, so pleased to see him release his heart from burdens and bitterness accumulated up until this present day. Jesus, musing, chuckling and smiling, says, "He is a constant visitor here, to these waters," he recalled with a pleasant gentle laugh, and sat down on the sand at a short distance from the boy, who kept throwing stones. Jesus eyed their landing in the water over and over again, and at times settled his gaze onto the boy, as if reading the movements of his heart like pages in an open book. Seeing time pass, the boy stopped and sat on the sand, gazing at the waters as a calm breeze touches him, as if cheering him on after so many throws given up today. Pleasantly satisfied, he stood there with eyes closed, at peace. "Joseph," Jesus called him in a gentle tone. Soon, hearing him, he turns his eye onto his Lord and smiles so beautifully. Standing up, he runs toward the Lord and engulfs him in a wide, tight hug around his neck. He must have been around 14 years old. Jesus was ever so in love with this boy. One could melt at the soft, loving flames of love that they had for one another. Settling him on his right leg, Jesus hugs him with one arm, saying, "This is Hannah." He points at me with his left arm. "Nice to meet you, Hannah." His voice was so fresh as the winds of the air. His hands so fresh as the cooling eyes in the summertime. His face beamed with love for the Lord and wonder at this new person he just met. "Joseph, would you be willing to teach Anna how to throw stones away also?" "Sure." He agrees eagerly and gets up soon to reach out his hand to get mine. My heart ever skipped a beat at his innocence, yet with such holy heavenly charm of our Lord in him. Getting up, we went near the shoreline. "First thing first," he began. "Think of a situation that has hurt you. An event or a word, anything that wounded you, even if for a second." "Okay." I set my mind on the pages of my heart with eyes fixed on the water, as if spacing out. "Okay, I got one." I looked toward him. "Nice. Now, open your hand and imagine the stone landing. Its weight in your hand will be dependent on how much damage it did to you. Its color will appear with as much depth of hurt it caused you." His eyes penetrated the soul as he instructed, deep as crystals, mysterious as the depth of the waters undiscovered. Who was this guy? Getting out of my wonderment, I sensed a heavy stone landing on my right hand, black as coal. "Ooh, there we go," he exclaimed, satisfied. "Now, throw it away with as much strength as you want." He points shortly toward the water and soon gazes back toward me, saying, "I preferably like throwing them away at some length far off, knowing they will be very deep in the water and see no more." He chuckles. "Okay." I set myself in position, ready to throw it, when Joseph interrupted briefly. "Oh!" He stopped me for a bit. "When you throw it, you have to bear in mind and heart that you are throwing it away for good. This is you declaring you have let go of that burden that weighted your heart. Once in the water, it is no longer to be found in your heart." Forgiving the issue, I added with insight from the Lord. "Yes, exactly," he agrees. "Okay, I got it," and my stone went flying a long distance, fast as soon as I spoke got it. Once it hit the water and began to sink deep, I observed that, although a long distance, I could see its outcome. It began to dissolve until nothing remained of it but white ashes landing on the bottom of the water. Nobody would have known what those ashes were about if they were to look at them now. The purity of the water overpowered the darkness the stone held, destroying its evil and leaving only white ashes behind. Water so clear and pristine, in aqua color with hues of baby blues. It was clear enough to see the bottom and distinguish its sand, and all it held with a little distance underneath. My focal gaze got snapped out of it by a sound of clapping hands heard from Jesus' direction. Joseph and I instantly looked and saw Jesus and Mary standing there, proud of this act of forgiveness and of surrendering the stones to the ocean of mercy. Jesus occasionally released a whistling sound made with his fingers on his mouth, cheering on with glee and happiness. Wow! My eyes gleamed to see his happiness at this stone given away. Dazzling eyes smiled at him. Oh, this lover of our soul! From then on, Hannah, like Joseph, took the most tender scrupulous care to unburden herself even of the littlest bitterness found in her heart, keeping her garden freshly fragrant most of the time. What a delight to my heart, the souls of mine! Oh, I adore them so!